the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each agenda item. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item, and they should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. They should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Economic Development Finance Standing Committee for April 1st, 2024 to order, and ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes,
Present.
Lopez,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Stites,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
Burrows.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome, Mr. Wakes, to the commission, to the meeting this evening. There are no revisions to the night's agenda, so no approval of minutes this evening. We have two action items for discussion this evening. Item number one is a resolution authorizing amendments to the 2024 Master Equipment Lease Purchase Agreement. And I would ask that Debbie Johnson recognize Debbie as our Deputy CFO for remarks and comments.
Good evening, Debbie Johnson, Deputy CFO. Tonight, we're talking about amending the resolution authorizing the amendment to the 2024 Master Equipment Lease Purchase Agreement. This is an agreement that we have with Bank of America. Our current amendment expired last year on 12/31. So this amendment would extend the agreement to 12/31 of 2024. And it would also approve the list of equipment that was included in your packet. The lease finance agreement is the financing tool that we use to purchase equipment that we purchase over a longer period of time. Usually it's anywhere from 3 to 10 years, although we really we've gotten away from the 3 years. So it's mainly 5, 7, and 10-year leases that we do on a lot of our equipment. As I said, all the items that are included here that were included in the Annex 1 is the list of all the equipment. It was all approved in the budget as lease financed equipment. We have equipment that was ordered in 2023 that has not, due to supply chains, has not been received yet. We don't do the financing until we receive and pay for the equipment. So we have items from 2023 that are carrying over, as well as new items that were approved in the budget for 2024. We've also listed out on that sheet the interest rates that and these are just estimates. The final rates would be set when we do the actual lease schedules later in the year, once the equipment has been purchased. And so with that, we're asking for approval of the master lease agreement.
Committee, any questions? Commissioner Lopez?
Just a quick question about, I was going through the equipment, also breaking it down, and it looks like we're buying trucks from Rush Truck for $175 a piece because they're at 5 times the money. And then our spreaders looks like they're $52,500 at 5 times the money as well. But I found some spreaders that are they're the manufacturer out of Ohio for $18,000 a piece. But so what I'm saying is, if they haven't built our trucks yet, can we come back and say, hey, we can actually do this and not have to finance so much money?
Yeah, the items that we put in here, we put in at the budgeted amounts. But that doesn't mean that they're going to pay that exact amount. Those are the estimates that we've received from the department. So they could get them for less, and we would only finance what the actual cost was. If we have had instances where departments have went to purchase something and they feel like they're getting a better deal with the vendor. So they may want to do the lease with the vendor. Those have to come back to the commission if they choose to go that route. If they're outside of the master lease agreement, but that can be done. But yeah, that would need to be done before. I don't know what the status of all the equipment is. I know there are a lot of supply chain issues where it's taking a lot longer to get our equipment. So they're trying to get their orders in as soon as they can.
So is this something I bring up with Jeff Fisher or Fleet?
Probably Fleet. I'm guessing these are probably put in by Fleet.
Maybe I'll just do both and know.
Yeah.
Same page.
Yeah, and we put them in here because they're budgeted, so we have the authority if they purchase them, but if they don't, we're not out anything if they didn't buy the spreaders. We're not out anything by not doing that.
So they didn't ask for a deposit or anything?
No.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a
Mr.
question.
Wakes?
To his point, regarding the budgeted amount. Is the budgeted amount always that extensive, more than the normal purchase price, or?
No, usually the budget amount is an amount I think they have gotten from the vendor. However, we set the budget, this budget was set last September. So there could have been price adjustments. They may build in price adjustments into their estimate. But maybe when they go to purchase it this year, maybe they've got one that doesn't have to be ordered. Maybe there's one on site that might come in cheaper. I don't know. That could happen. It may not happen.
So who negotiates the price?
The department
Thank you very much.
or I guess it would be the fleet manager. If the department's working with fleet, then it would be the fleet manager that would negotiate that.
Any other questions or comments?
This is when new with legal, though, that would also have to follow our normal procurement processes too. So if it's above a threshold amount, it has to go out for a bidding process as well.
Thank you. I had one question, Ms. Johnson, in visiting today, animal services is something a lot of us get contacts about. I understand we have 5 employees, but only 3 vehicles. And I know not all 5 are going to be in 3 vehicles, but we're budgeted for 8, but we only have 3 vehicles. Has there been a request for any type of lease agreement or procurement for animal control vehicles?
I'm not seeing anything through what was in the budget for lease finance.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was brought to my attention this morning in a meeting. I just wanted to find out. I'll ask if there's no more questions, I'll ask the clerk if there are any hands raised by the public who wish to speak.
No hands are raised at this time.
Thank you. Anybody present who would care to speak to this item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. Thank you. I would now entertain a motion for approval.
Townsend second.
We have a motion second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. Our second item is a resolution, the approval of resolution adopting the Second Amendment to the Development Agreement for the Village West Apartments 3 to extend deadlines. And I see that I was supposed to recognize Jeff Conway, but I see we have Wendy Green here this evening. So Wendy, will you give us an overview in reference to the amendment?
Actually, the developer for this matter has a representative here and he will be giving an overview.
Okay, and would you give your name, please?
Yes, sir. Owen Hake with North Point Development, and our team wanted to just provide a brief presentation. One, just to highlight some of the challenges that we've seen so far within the construction process, but then also highlight the progress that has been made as well, despite some of those challenges. And I think if we flip to the next slide, that highlights it and starts this fairly well. I've got the remote. Okay, thank you. So this is a recent visual that was taken of our project, taken in the air from the northeast corner. And as you can see, all asphalt paving is down throughout the perimeter of site. each buildings 1 through 4. If you work your way around counterclockwise around the site, that is how the buildings are numbered, are topped out, fully framed, and recently all received TPO roof membrane as well. In addition to that, we also have siding that is going up, as you can see, kind of on this nearest side of the buildings as well. So progress that has gone on thus far, despite some of those challenges that I'll hit on here in a moment. The next item that I wanted to mention in regards to progress are the public improvements that are affiliated with our development agreement. The first of which is the picture to the right, which is the widening of Parallel Parkway and includes 2 added left turn lanes. One of which is for eastbound traffic to turn left on North 114th Street. And the second of which is for westbound traffic to turn left into and be our future main entry to the apartment community. Again, this has been driven on since early 2023 and is currently being used by the public right now. On the left is the extension of Delaware Parkway. And there were 2 previous extensions on the 2 previous phases as well. And this will serve as a secondary exit or entrance, excuse me, to our development. Both of these, I would like to mention in our development agreement, there was a deadline of July 1st, 2023. As I mentioned, both are substantially complete and Parallel Parkway is turned over and being used by the public right now. And the last and the basis of our request today and for the completion extension are challenges that we've seen notably with electrical infrastructure and getting power to our site. Discussions with BPU began in March of 2022. That's when initial load applications were forwarded and also when we began discussing with their design team. Shortly after, the discussion was that in the summer of 2023 is when the site would be energized. All transformers, primary cable would be routed to our private site. After some challenges with sourcing that I know that they underwent after using a different vendor as well. And like I mentioned, with primary cable sourcing challenges as well. Final transformers were not brought to our site until early in the first week of March of 2024, which marks 24 months after initial load applications were forwarded to their design team. This had a variety of impacts, notably on schedule, but not being able to have enough power for our construction staff inhibited progress, notably on framing and the large volume of tools needed for our large buildings, and 4 of them in this case. Second of which, and one of the most notable, are interior finishes, finishing out drywall and also painting. Especially during winter months, if we don't have the ability to heat the inside of our buildings, it's a challenge to have those dry. So that progress was halted. And then also, like I mentioned, equipment startup on being able to condition the inside of our buildings. But outside of even really just electrical infrastructure and power, at the beginning of the project, we did see other challenges as well for sourcing. Some of that included electrical switchgear that is involved in each of our buildings, and then also roofing membrane that was seen very much so during COVID as well. So those were the primary reasons on our request today for extending our construction completion date to March 31st of 2025. We're confident and we think is a very realistic timeframe for the way we are pacing with construction right now. But thank you very much. That's end of this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hague. Any other comments?
No, sir.
Committee, any questions or comments? This resolution extends the date for 1 more year from yesterday. So it's a 1-year extension. It's amendment number 2. I'll ask the clerk if there was anyone who online who would care to speak to this project.
No hands are raised at this time.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item. Let the record show no one's come forward. Okay, committee, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to
Stites,
approve.
motion to approve.
Second, Wakes.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Roll call.
I'll roll.
Roll call. Wakes,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. That concludes our meeting this evening. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move. Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your work this evening. I would ask that those in attendance that are here for the neighborhood and community development meeting, give them about 5 minutes to set up and they'll be ready to hear from you. Thank you.
To order. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill. Commissioner Hill. You'll need to unmute. We'll come back. She is online.
Okay.
Ramirez.
Here,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Ramirez, we have an absence memo. Townsend,
Here.
Bynum. Here. Davis.
Here. Thank you so much, Clerk. Are there any revisions to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Knapp.
Yes, Commissioner, I have one. C1 was removed.
Okay, so C1 was removed. Just for the public's education and committee, in case you are unaware, C1 is the 5628 Walcott Drive application. Mr. Knapp, is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so beyond that, do we have any other changes to the agenda?
No other changes.
Okay, our first order of business is approval of the minutes from February 6, 2023. Is there a motion for approval or any comments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Townsend second.
Awesome. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez, or I'm sorry. Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. For the land bank application process, I'll hand it over to Mr. Knapp.
Right. For tonight, we have 9 homes and 1 commercial application. We did receive some staff comments, but they were all design related, so they wouldn't really affect if you can build or not on these lots. We did receive 1 land bank advisory board comment for C2. So A1 is at 631 North 62nd Street. It's by J Block. They are currently building a house now that is framed up at 4907 Lathrop Avenue. They're requesting 2 more homes. So that's that one. A2 is at 710 North 78th Street. They're requesting to build a single family home here. A3 is 1220 North 50th Street. Request is to build a single family home here also. A4 is at 3904 Douglas Avenue. They're going to build a single family home here. This is a bigger lot, but there is no sewer in this area, so this one makes sense. A5 is at 1737 South 49th Street. This is a long skinny lot. There's also no sewer in the area, but they're going to try to build a single family home here. A6 is 715 North 12th Street. We did have a staff comment on this one. There is 2 lots under this 715. It is 65 feet wide with both of those lots combined. There is another 65-foot lot down here at 1200 Barnett. But staff's request was don't build the house in the middle of the lot, build it on the edge. So we could eventually, hopefully build another house on that other lot that's there. And A7 is at 3560 North 56th Terrace. This one has a little bit of, there could be some easements or right away with this one, but I have informed the applicant of these issues. And then the last one is at A8. It's at 1702 Stinson Avenue. The plat and basically a surveyor needs to come in and clean all these lines up because there's a lot of, and they might come back for 1700 depending on what that cleanup looks like. But their plan is to build 1 house here. So that concludes section A.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I'm not sure if other committee members have the same thing, but on our list of applications, we do not have A8 1702 Stinson Avenue. I don't know if that's the case for other folks. Do y'all have that? A8, so 1702 Stinson Avenue. It was on, okay, then so there must have just been some mix up between the software and the printed guide. Okay. So let me go ahead and get to public comments and then committee. I'll go ahead and open up the floor. So I'll ask clerk if there were any comments received from the public.
No comments were received.
No comments. Any comments online or anything?
No hands are raised at this time.
Okay, awesome. For the folks that are here, is there anyone that would like to speak regarding these applications? Awesome. I will take that silence as a no. Okay, that saves me a breath. Awesome. With that, committee, go ahead, Commissioner Bynum. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp, I have a couple questions on several of these. You had indicated there's no sewer. The one that's on, sorry, I'm struggling to scroll. So A7 on North 56th Terrace, I'm working backwards a little bit. Do we know, I would be of a mind to believe there's no sewer in that area. I'm just guessing because it's north of Leavenworth Road. So I don't know that. But did you mention whether that one had access to sewer or not?
I don't think I did, but there is no sewer in that area. We have a sewer map. We have a sewer layer
Thank you.
on here.
So I think then that was 3 total where you said there's no sewer.
Yes.
Well, I guess what I'd like to see, like in that one, there's no sewer in the neighborhood, so I'm assuming they would be building with septic.
Yes, that is great. That's the only way they could go. And
Okay.
the applicant does know of that.
On the other 2 that there's no sewer, are those neighborhoods without sewer, or are those situations where we would require sewer hookup?
If I remember right, I believe the rule is if a sewer is within 400 feet, they have to hook it up. And there's no sewer in any of those neighborhoods that I
Okay,
presented.
okay,
That's one of the checks we do with our staff meeting.
okay. Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Bynum. You addressed a couple of questions I had about the no sewer situation. So that leaves me with a question just about 715 North 12th. I believe there was a comment or recommendation by staff about where to build on the lot. Could you go over that again for me?
Yes, Commissioner, there are 2 lots under this 715.
Mhm.
Can't see them, they're joined together. The staff's recommendation was to build on like close to the edge of the lot. So they don't build on that lot line that's not there right now. That's in the middle of the lot. So they can eventually maybe sell that lot to build a home on. Later, not,
Okay, so are we talking about 1 lot or 2 lots? It's 1 address, so I'm a
Yes.
bit,
but there's 2 parcels under it. So there's like a lot line that's not showing up on this map.
okay.
So what the request was to build the house not on top of the lot line, but close to like the edge of the property. And then the other lot would just be treated kind of like a yard extension. That they could, if the neighborhood fills up, could build a house on it later. Because if you put a house in the middle of the lot, you can't build a house on that other parcel.
Okay, well, who would control it? This is what's a bit confusing to me. So if the application is for 715, then it would be granted in its entirety. And I don't know, well, and this is question for council. I know there are certain restrictions from time to time that we've placed on people, and maybe restrictions isn't the right word, but conditions. And so would we have the right to say you must build in a certain section this? If we approve the application for 715.
This is when agreeing with legal, probably the more appropriate thing to do would be to say that the land bank is going to split that lot and you can have one or the other, but not both. That could be one thing that would do, because it is 1 parcel, but it does look like there are 2 lots underneath it. So it's probably 717 and 715 are what is included in that particular parcel. So it could be split. So we could do it that way. We could just tell the applicant, the land bank is going to have the lot split and do it that way. Or we could tell the applicant that they need to split that lot and build their house on 1 lot, and then they could have the other lot that they could use as a side lot, or that they could then sell on. But if they wanted to include it, that would be fine. But that they shouldn't build their house in the middle, it sounds like is what they were going to be told. Don't build it in the middle. Have the lots surveyed and split and build it on 1 lot instead of in the middle of both. And that way they could sell the other lot, so another house could be built in the future perhaps. So there are different ways that we could do it. Or the just application could not be approved, and then the land bank itself could go ahead and split the lot and sell two different lots. But if it is improved as it exists right now, that is correct. They would be given the entire parcel.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I don't know.
I mean, there are different ways it could be done.
Okay. Well, either way, then there would be, if we said to go forward with it as it is, there would definitely need to be I would think some kind of restriction or prohibition, or as you said, the lot can be split. And we're approving either 715 or what's the other possible address, 717. To me, that just seems to be the simpler of the two. Could the square footage, if the lot was split, and I don't know if that would be an even split or something less than even, would it accommodate what the applicant wants in terms of a 2,500 square foot house? Do we know?
I'm not sure, Commissioner.
Okay. Well, to me, it seems, okay, like it would be just to split it. And we know exactly what we're dealing with. And then they would be free to build where they want on that lot.
This is Wendy Grin with legal, and that might take some questioning with our mapping department.
Okay.
It also depends on what type of legal description would be involved. If our mapping department can do that themselves, it may require a survey. I'm just not sure. I think there's some questions that are going to have to be answered to determine whether that is something that we can do internally with our mapping department, or if a survey would be required.
Well, then based on council's statement there, I would move that we hold this over a month. So those determinations can be made and we have more information next month to see what can be done.
Okay. Hold that thought, Commissioner. Clerk, is there somebody online?
We do have Callie McLaughlin online.
Okay, please do help us out, Callie. Ms. McLaughlin?
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. So I don't have the legal description in front of me, but if memory serves me correctly, this was one of the applications in which the parcel could be split administratively through the GSS and Planning Mapping Department application. That being said, it would then become, either way, it would be a narrow lot before or afterwards with that. And then we would be able to, do things like reduce the setbacks and so on and so forth to accommodate that smaller parcel size.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Awesome. So Commissioner Townsend, to your, back to your motion was to hold over. I gather the rest of the applications are okay with you to move on, or are you just wanting to focus on A6 right now with that motion?
Well, yeah, my comment only pertained to this particular one.
Just that one. Okay. So the motion is to hold over A6, which is 715 North 12th Street. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a second. Before we get the roll call, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend, I might have missed it. The hold would be for the purpose of doing an administrative split internally and then coming back?
Well, either an administrative split or to evaluate what was just said by, who was that online?
Callie?
Ms. McLaughlin.
Yeah, Ms. McLaughlin. Either way, we come back and know what we're dealing with. I don't think we know what we're dealing with right here. Personally, I think a split should be undertaken, but we would have all of the plus and minuses of that. We don't have that information now.
Okay, I mean, I guess what I've been wondering about is if it's our desire that this applicant only build on half of this larger lot, then why would we not undertake the administrative split, make two lots and then allow the land bank transfer. If we're stating out loud for the public record that that's what we want.
Ms. McLaughlin has her hand up again.
Okay, yes, Ms. McLaughlin.
Once we go back and check the legal description, if it is able to be administratively split, we could ask them which one they want. If they want the north or their south parcel, and then they could redo the application for just that individual parcel.
Yeah, Commissioner Townsend.
So again, I think it's important this be put aside till next month. There are too many ifs this and ifs that, and those can be resolved within that time. And that would give us time to see if the applicant still wants to engage and what the engagement will look like.
Yes. Quick question for legal. Do we know the time frame? Because I know we're saying 30 days, but I don't know how long it takes to split and come up with two parcels and all that stuff. What is the estimated time frame? Is 30 days reasonable?
I know I will have an answer from the mapping department if that's something that they can do administratively within the next couple of days, because I can email them tomorrow.
Okay,
So
cool.
we'll have an answer if there's any other information that needs to be had before the meeting next month.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Yes, online.
Mr. Chair, just so you're aware, our next NCD meeting is April 29th.
29th. Yes. So we're dealing with an interesting kind of calendar. We have this meeting here on the 1st and then the 29th. So it's still close enough to that 30 days. I think, we'll be able to hear back. Commissioner Bynum, do you have a question? Okay, with that, clerk, can we get the roll call? And again, this is just to hold over A6, which is 715 North 12th Street. Clerk, can we get the roll call?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Awesome, thank you. So committee, we have the rest of the applications, which for our knowledge would be A1 through A5, and then A7 and A8. Are there any questions regarding those applications?
Find a motion to approve those items.
Townsend, second.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just for the record, just to clarify, this is from A1 to A5 and then A7 to A8. Just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. All right, clerk, can we get the roll call?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Awesome. Mr. Knapp?
All right, thank you, Commissioner. That takes us to item C2. This is our last item for our land bank new applications tonight. This is at 1705 North First Street. We've seen this in the last few months. It's been held over. Just a reminder, the applicant wants to build a 2-unit building for contractors. It is zoned correctly. We did receive another land bank advisory board comment on this one. It was basically they want equitable development and they want to spur economic development in the area. They see value in this area and there's questioning if we should build here or hold for something better.
Any questions, committee members? Yes, Commissioner Townsend?
No question, but I do have a report in as much as I had asked this committee to hold this over so I could get more information from the requester and also to find out what was going on with the surrounding neighborhood, which primarily consisted of the former Juniper Gardens development. So I was able to speak with the current owners now. It's Iron Door Management. They are the new owners of what we all knew as the Juniper Gardens development, which was formerly under the control and ownership of the Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority. So approximately 3 months ago, the sale from the Housing Authority to Iron Door Management took place. I spoke with one of Iron Door's representatives, Mr. let me not massacre his name, Revzani, as to what was Iron Door's plan for the former Juniper Gardens. And their plan is to do some renovations and and keep it as housing, which Mr. Rezvani described as workforce housing, which is a need that we've heard stated time and again for Kansas City, Kansas. So now knowing that it is a residential plan that the new owners have in mind, I did contact the applicant, Miss Amelia Harshfield, explain that to her, and she agreed with my concern that the plan that she had for development there, which was not residential, was not really going to be compatible with that neighborhood. However, she was most interested in looking at what the needs would be to support residential environment there in the former Juniper Garden. So we'll have further details, further conversations about that. And I am going to make sure that she engages with Fairfax Industrial to see if there's any other already built facilities that may help her, or land if she wants to pursue that. So I appreciate that. And this committee's holding over so we could have this vote on the application with knowledge of what the current plan for that housing unit that we knew as Juniper Gardens is. So with that, I would move to deny this application for the reasons stated.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. There is a motion to deny. Any other questions or comments or anything? All right. Is there a second to deny this application?
Bynum, second.
Awesome. Clerk, can we have the roll?
We do have a hand raised online.
Oh, okay. A hand raised from staff, from Commissioner Hill, or from,
Carol King.
oh, okay. Yes, we'll go ahead and hear that comment.
Was a mistake on my part, and I'm very sorry.
That is all right. That is all right. I wasn't sure if you were connected with the applicant, so I wanted to give opportunity. With that, committee, we are voting on there was a motion made by Commissioner Townsend and a second by Commissioner Bynum to deny C2 1705 North First Street. Clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Committee, that wraps up at least the land bank applications portion. We are going to transition to the policy discussion and ensure that we are able to do that in proper fashion. So if there's staff or other folks that need to make, oh boy, all right, I'll move faster. If there's staff or other folks that need to make transition up here, we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so just wanted to provide some background information for the public and for committee members. So this conversation regarding revamping and revitalizing the land bank policy has been in place for about a year and a half now. And that consists of public engagement as well as a subcommittee that has met publicly. And that is what has led to this particular policy. In our last meeting that we had on the 4th of March, Mr. Knapp went through a abbreviated version of everything that is entailed in that less than 20-page document. For the purpose of tonight, I'm not going to have staff go through everything, but just focus on these 4 items. And our goal is to make sure that there is consensus on these 4 items. The other conversations, particularly regarding gardens and urban farms and those things, will take place on April 29th. But tonight, we're just discussing these 4 things. For the public, when you are commenting, you will be commenting on just the entire policy itself. And so while we would prefer you keep everything to these 4 things, if there are other things that are related to the policy that's in the policy, feel free to add that as well. with that, Mr. Knapp, you want to go ahead and just give us kind of a primer to have this conversation, and then committee will be kind of free flowing from there, but we will have public comment before then. Go for it, Mr. Knapp.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the Land Bank Advisory Board, yard extensions, options, and holds. First, I kind of wanted to share this map of all of our land bank parcels. We have 4,675 parcels in the land bank today. That is a big number that we have. And how did we get 4,675 parcels in the land bank? We get them from the tax sale. So the chart on the left, the bottom bars are the properties that the land bank received per year from the tax sale. And then the line up above it is the inventory as it was growing. I also have land bank sales on there. We had 55 sales last year. I have to say that I took over in 2020 at that dip in sales, but that was also a policy change year where we instituted you have to build on the lot to get it. So for the Land Bank Advisory Board, the Land Bank Advisory Board is its membership is a representative from each neighborhood business organization, MBRs. They make up 8. And then we have 2 representatives from livable neighborhoods for a total of 10. I got the current members listed there. The Land Bank Advisory Board, I present to them, I show them the projects that are coming up, and they have time to comment on it. The idea was that they can advise the commissioners on their thoughts, and then I provide that in my presentation when I present to you. This map is the number of land bank lots per MBR. Groundworks has 3,000 of them. This is a policy change that we had because there's comments at the bottom that said the Northeast is underrepresented in the current Land Bank Advisory Board makeup. So with the new policy, we added one more position for the EMBR that has the most land bank lots in it. All right, so the next one is the participation that we receive from the Land Bank Advisory Board. I do have to start. We provide several different ways for them to participate. We have a virtual meeting that I send out meeting invites. We have online surveys that they could just answer it without even talking to me. They email me and they call me. I made this chart last year of the board's participation. I kind of singled it out there. So there's multiple people interacting in multiple ways. When I first started, it was the virtual meeting, or the meeting was the only way that the Land Bank Advisory Board really saw what was coming. So they had higher participation in that meeting. But now we have online surveys, emails, and they could see the same application that we just seen in our last item. They could see those, so they stopped coming to that virtual meeting. The next one.
Mr. Knapp, yes, well, yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry, I do not want to delay this, but I'm looking at the proposed membership of the advisory board, but what's the makeup of the advisory board right now? And then if you would go back to that chart. This is the current
Yes.
membership policy. 1 from each NBR, 2 from Livable Neighborhoods Task Force. So the change would be adding 1, an additional member from basically groundwork, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Commissioner, just to be clear, the language says the NBR that is nearest, right, the largest
Containing
amount
the most, yeah.
parcels for the land bank.
Okay, so, and then if we could look at that chart and tell me what the chart is showing us.
Oh, this chart just shows you the meeting date, like the standing committee date. And then it's like who attended the virtual meeting. We had 3 people who filled out an online survey, who communicated me through email and who called me by the phone. So it's just going through each of the different ways that we provide that people can communicate with the land bank and just put it on a chart.
So for example, the April meeting of 2023, out of 10, 3 participated in the meeting and 1 additional communicated through the online survey. I see email and phone are Carol and Elnora, who were present on the meeting.
That is correct.
Okay, so then March of 23, you had 3 out of 10 attend the meeting and 4 out of 10 communicate by email. Okay, just trying to get a notion of the participation. I'm good, thanks.
Mr. Knapp, proceed.
I do have to say that they all see the application, like they see the same application that we do. So my participation did fall because we created that application that now they could just click a button and see it. They didn't have to wait to come to a virtual meeting to see it.
So
Yeah, Commissioner.
I'm sorry. So on any of those scenarios, everyone has seen it. They may not have anything to say.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the next slide, there was also a question about notifications on how much we notify. So I kind of did like a chart of what I do every month. So applications submissions, we do a month. We open them from they're usually open for 1 month. That's when applicants can submit. But after we hit May 2nd, I shut off the submissions until the next month. And then I send applications to the Land Bank Advisory Board on the next Tuesday. So it gives me a week to make that application. The next one, the submit item to the clerk at 5:10 is a new change since I made this slide. But that's because we've increased the time that I have to submit to the clerk. But it's every Tuesday and I have a staff meeting. I have the Land Bank Advisory meeting. I submit the clerk. We have agenda review the meeting. Basically what I'm saying is the Land Bank Advisory Boards and the neighborhood groups get 51 days of notice of these upcoming applications. And that, Commissioner, that completes the Land Bank Advisory Board.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's continue on. You can finish out your presentation, Mr. Knapp. For committee, you all hold on tight. We should be done here momentarily, and then we'll do public comment and then kind of get into the weeds of it. So yeah, briefly, Mr. Knapp, because I know you've gone over this, we can hit on the other ones.
Okay, the next is yard extensions. Basically, the current policy is it has to be an unbuildable lot for the land bank to sell it to you. The biggest change with the proposed new policy is that if it's your primary residence, you can get the lot next to you. You can get 1 lot next to you. That's the biggest policy change. And here, the community feedback was that people wanted yard extensions. And then we included commercial lots and yard extensions. And pricing, we reduced the price from the appraised value to 10 cents per square foot. That makes over half of these lots under $500. And that puts us right in line with the other research that I was doing on other land banks. Then we go on the options. This is the current policy because if the lot is buildable, we don't sell it currently. And with that, there's not many changes that happen in the option part of this. We completed 18 projects. We got 14 under construction today under the option program. The community feedback was very good for options. And then the big changes weren't really that big for options. They basically just helped me run the land bank better. The start date for their option agreement is the day of our full commission meeting. They have 45 days after that to sign or I cancel it. And the extension is the land bank manager can extend one time for a total of 2 years. If they want more time, they have to come back in front of you. And then finally, hold for development. Staff's recommendation was holding property for third party is prohibited. The mayor's office said holds are allowed for development. At our community sessions, hold for development only had 2 votes versus the disagree. So that's
All right.
all I have tonight.
All right. And I do just want to know for the public's education, again, on the March 4th meeting, there was a far more in-depth, longer presentation that was made. This is kind of revisiting that. That's why I'd asked for Mr. Knapp to go a little bit quicker. I want to get to public comment and then kind of allow for a conversation. And again, my goal is before we are done and hopefully before any crazy things happen outside, we have some consensus on these really important items. So we'll see how that goes. With that, I will now recognize members of the public to address the committee. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. They should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. I'll ask the clerk if were there any comments that were received prior to this meeting for this item?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands online from the public regarding this item?
Yes, we have Miss Elnora Jefferson online.
Awesome. Ms. Jefferson, you'll be given 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Elnora Jefferson, Kansas City, Kansas. I would like to make a comment on the advisory board makeup. The advisory board makeup, some policies prior to this, before this, stated that there would be the applications would be brought forth to the staff advisory board and the regular advisory board. And the wording was such that it could be read that both of those bodies would meet together. And now in this policy and the policy from 2019, these 2 bodies do not meet together, they meet separately, so that the commission receives advice from the staff advisory board and then receives other types of advice downstream. As I read this and was looking at it, I'd like to ask the commission of the task force to review that requirement and consider combining those 2 bodies. The main reason for that is my experience has shown that it is always good to learn what is going on, to gain knowledge in this process. This process of development, this process of land bank management requires a lot of knowledge. And the knowledge that one gains from listening to the advice and recommendations and the reasons why the staff makes its recommendations is invaluable to be able to use to evaluate further applications down the line. So that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Clerk, are there any other comments online?
No other hands are raised.
Awesome. Moving to folks in the room, is there anybody that would wish to address yes, come on up. You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Oh, make sure the mic is on, ma'am. That's green.
Carolyn Wyatt, Kansas City, Kansas, 359 True. I had talked to one of the ladies on the advisory board, and she was saying when they had those meetings, a lot of time they didn't have a quorum, but they went on with the process where they should not have. So I know you showed where sometimes you had 3 or whatever, but it really wasn't enough. But they went on with the process as if, everything was okay, but it really wasn't. So I think that when they have those meetings, advisory board, That's why you have advisory board and you have the right number of people there so they can make the right vote on it. So if they're not doing that, you probably know they're not doing that. They probably need to do that a little better.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any others? Yes, please state your name and city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes. Is the mic on, ma'am? Make sure it's green. Yes, it should be green.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Lisa Walker Yeager. I'm in Parkwood, Kansas City, Kansas. My concern is, I've talked to Judd a couple of times because I've spoken with several developers that we were trying to bring to Wyandotte County, as well as my daughter is a developer herself. So when I asked him what the process was, it was not given to us what the process was of how to basically purchase these lots, because I also wanted to know regarding it to purchase the lots and start building on them. What is it that was mandated? Did, like in certain towns, like in Missouri, if you're gonna build on it, you gotta come with your plans, you gotta come with, you know, certain things you have to come with. And I wanted to know exactly what was needed. Also, the group of people that you have that's representing the Northeast area and the Northeast district, I believe you should have some of the neighborhood presidents on there, because these lots are in our neighborhoods. And a lot of these neighborhoods need to be addressed then by 1 or 2 people that's attending a meeting of members. Because I know that we keep up certain lots in certain neighborhoods. And as a president, that is our job, to keep up and know what's going on in our neighborhood and to be able to address whatever is going on. So when he's making up a member, whoever he has or whoever they decide to have, please include the neighborhood presidents. I think that is very vital to everything. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there other comments anybody would like to make sitting in the gallery? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting. Legal, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, if I could just address Ms. Wyatt's comment about the quorum. The advisory board isn't like a committee or a task force or normal board in that it requires a quorum for it to meet. There's no requirement for a quorum. It's not even a voting board per se. It's supposed to give comment and recommendations, but the comments and recommendations are mostly from either it could be from individual members of the board. It doesn't have to be a unanimous comment from the board. It could just be from individual members. And it is advisory. It doesn't necessitate a quorum. We don't have any individual ordinance that specifically speaks to the makeup of the advisory board that requires a quorum for it to meet. So if there's just 3 members that are online at the time or that are answering emails or calling into the meetings, that's okay. They can still discuss the business and they can still give recommendations.
And Ms. White, I do appreciate your willingness, but the public comment has closed. And so if you would like to meet with staff or us offline, you're more than welcome to do that. But the public comment for this portion has closed. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
The ladies.
Ma'am,
Should have
point
been
of
more.
order, please,
3.
please. We are,
More than
I
3.
appreciate, you can talk to us offline, but the public comment has closed for this. Thank you. Legal, I do want to get some clarification. So during our time in committee, I am going to open it up for questions after this exchange. But during our time on the subcommittee, and I think sometimes we forget this, the land bank itself, the Wyandotte County Land Bank Board of Trustees, is established by state statute. And this advisory board is also mentioned within that state statute. The guidance that you gave us, how does that interact with, or what is said within state statute regarding the responsibilities of the advisory board?
That is correct. Actually, the land bank itself is a creature of statute. It would not exist if not for the fact that a statute created it and allowed us to have the land bank. The advisory board, the commission is the land bank board of trustees that is also delegated authority by statute, at which we have then created also by our ordinances. The advisory board that we use, the statute also speak to the fact that we should speak to neighborhood groups, or that we should have advisory groups from the neighborhoods. There isn't really much in the way of statutes that speak to what should be making up the advisory board, but the statutes are clear that it should be advisory in nature, that the delegation of authority as to the decision-making body for the land bank is the land bank board of trustees. But again, the statute does say that the land bank board of trustees should listen to an advisory board or have a neighborhood group of advisors, but that's about all the authority that there is in the statutes.
Gotcha. Thank you. So I know there's questions and conversations about a quorum. The quorum's not necessarily mandated in order for the business of the Land Bank Advisory Board to be done. And so I just wanted to make that clear. Now, it is up to us if we wanted to add other local, right, resolutions or ordinances to add additional language, we can do that. But as of right now, there is no mandate from the state.
That's
With that, committee questions, we'll just keep it at the advisory board level. Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we're talking about the advisory board, do we consider when we're asking for comments on these applications? I know that neighborhood community groups are consulted, are they not, Mr. Knapp?
They are emailed the same information I emailed the Land Bank Advisory Board on the same day. So I give notice to the Land Bank Advisory Board and the neighborhood groups that are in, if the neighborhood group has a project within its boundaries, they will get an email from me.
Okay, and I know that was the policy discussed and acted on back in the spring of 2021. So I think what may be important is a check with the neighborhood groups that we have listed as to who to contact. Maybe there have been changes in personnel. Maybe the person who was president of a neighborhood group 2 years ago is no longer. But I thought that in addition to what we're calling the advisory board, that neighborhood groups are contacted with regard to applications in the neighborhood. So,
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. Neighborhood groups, just like NBRs, have to be registered with livable neighborhoods and stay up to date. That's their responsibility. So we have a list. If that list isn't being updated by that neighborhood leadership, then they might be sending it to the wrong person. To Ms. Wyatt's point earlier, I think we all agree it should be more than 3 people who show up, but we invite 10. I think the original intent of the conversation was one of equity. There were 10 people invited, where most of the land bank parcels are in one NBR. And so we tried to the recommendation from staff was to bring a little bit of equity to that by having the one neighborhood group that has the most. And currently that's the Northeast, and in the foreseeable future, that's going to be the Northeast, but that could potentially shift as Commissioner Davis noted. I think the issue of that Ms. Walker brings up is an interesting one of should that 11th seat be, who is invited to all of these, be someone from a specific neighborhood group within the area that has the largest, within the NBR that has the largest. That might be a tweak we could think about, but I think the While the original intent again was about equity, I think that we are all looking for a way to get more engagement from the public in the land bank process. But this is not to be flippant, but if we invite 10 and only 3 show up, yeah, where's the other 7?
Commissioner Townsend, just wanted to make sure you were able to finish your thought.
Well, thank you for that information, Mr. Hand. So my recommendation to all of the neighborhood groups who may be listening in would be to contact who, Mr. Hand, should they contact Mr.
It's Kayla Hauer with Liberal Neighborhoods.
Liberal Neighborhoods and make sure the information is up to date so that when Mr. Knapp does have the need to send out, that we are sending these out to the proper people in the neighborhood groups. Because I do know that when we do this each month, you know, Mr. Knapp knows, Mr. Hen knows, we will ask, have they been sent to the neighborhood group? But it is the neighborhood group's responsibility to make sure we have the correct information on hand. Thank you.
It's the same list, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. It's the same list that we then use for noticing all land use entitlements cases as well.
So yeah, and that's what I was going to get to. So I think I don't necessarily see that as a policy deal. I see that more as administrative, right? You know, for staff and for the land bank manager, for you, Mr. Knapp, to work with Ms. Howard and others in livable neighborhoods and just make sure the contact information is there. But we have a lot of neighborhoods. We have a lot of neighborhood leaders, right? There are some areas that have different groups all within very similar boundaries. And so there is that onus on those folks to say, if you're not getting the information, you need to let us know because we may not have updated information. There was so I think we've kind of landed somewhere regarding that. The quorum, right? It's not necessarily necessary for neighborhood leaders to be included. We got to make sure that information is updated. Mr. Knapp, please keep sending all of the applications out so that those neighborhood leaders know. There was one more comment regarding the staff advisory board and the land bank advisory board meeting together. Mr. Knapp, can you just provide us a very just brief description, or Mr. Hand, because I know you're also in that meeting, what is happening at the staff level in regards to the land bank?
So at the staff meeting, I basically just ask, can a project be built here? And I present it, and then staff like planning says, well, they need to do this, this, and this. And then I take all that information down. Public Works could tell me that no, a road can't go there. Like, they basically just answer the question, can this project be built? And I gather all that information of what the applicant needs to do, and I share it with them. So they have a full understanding of, you will need to get a driveway permit, you'll need to get a narrow lot review. So just to help them before they go to their architect, they know what they have to do.
Okay, awesome. I do see Commissioner Hill's hands up. So Commissioner Hill.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging me, Commissioner Davis, and thank you to the staff that is giving us information. And I want to just ask a question. I hope I'm not out of line, but I really appreciated when Ms. Yeager asked about if you are a developer, then how would you get information to apply for a land bank opportunity? And maybe I didn't say it right, but hopefully you got a gist of kind of what I'm looking for. I don't have that information either. It may be as simple as going online, but I really don't know. And would just appreciate hearing from the staff. What would be the procedure if we were a developer and we wanted to apply for development on some land, on land bank properties?
Awesome. Mr. Knapp, I know we have some of that information online. And I know some of that information has been presented prior to, but briefly, can you just describe if somebody's interested in a land bank parcel, what are some of the beginning steps that they would need to do to be successful?
The first step I would say is to go online, because I put it step by step of what you have to do to build on a land bank lot. There's like 10 steps. The first one is pick a lot. We have an online map that you can go to, move around and find the area that you want to build in. We have it categorized by residential and commercial. If you click on the parcel, you get to see all the information about it. You get to see like when the parcel was demoed, if it's in a floodplain, like all the things that would stop a build from happening. We try to gather all the information that we had internally and provide that to the applicant first. We also have sewer depth on there, so they could see if there's a sewer or how deep that sewer is. Then on that same site, we have a online form that they basically answer 7 questions, like what are you going to build? Where are you going to build? What experience you have? What do you plan to do with the house? Rent it, sell it, or live in it? And then I gather all that information and put it in our online form, our online application that we look at. And and then the commissioners vote on it.
Yeah. So to answer both questions, and Commissioner Hill, please correct us if this is unclear, but the best way would be to go online. I'm at the website right now. If anybody were to Google or Bing or whatever your preferred search engine is, you can just type in how to build on a land bank lot in Wyandotte County, Kansas, or for the unified government. There's a step-by-step process that Mr. Knapp just went through that is kind of laid out of what to do, what section, what stage, so that folks know about that. So moving on, because I would love to get consensus on these 4 items regarding the land bank policy being number 1. I would just kind of offer my opinion on the staff advisory board and the land bank advisory board meeting together. I would say maybe if that could happen on a quarterly basis or of some sort, where there's some sort of meeting or some sort of, hey, are we on the same page? But as far as being in on the meeting month to month, I would say no, just given the amount of work that is already goes into getting this work done. And so administratively, I'll leave that up to you, Mr. Knapp, to kind of work that out. But I don't think every month that would require it. That's quite burdensome in regards to the work that staff is doing. Any other questions regarding that? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I think there's value in the suggestion made by Ms. Jefferson. I can see, Commissioner Davis, where what you suggest is perhaps a compromise, if you will. But I think there's value in what she has expressed. And it makes me wonder if when the staff advisory group meets, could the land bank advisory board be invited? And then if they are able to attend that virtually or otherwise, they can. And if they're not able, they don't have to be there. It's just a thought. I think what she says is valuable, as, you know, we're always all trying to learn more about the development process. And that has value for me. That's a comment there, Chair.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Other comments regarding the process?
I think Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design, from staff's perspective, we would take 2 meetings down to 1. We present essentially the same information. I think it is a philosophical question for the board and their policy. Typically, we try to keep staff comments separate from public comments because staff don't always make the same comments when the public is present. That's just human nature. That's embedded in, I think, every process that we have in local government. So I believe that was the original intent. If you all think that's not needed for this case and you want to throw us all in together, I think that you need to at least acknowledge that that might make some staff more apprehensive, although it probably shouldn't. But again, I think we're talking about human nature more than anything here. So it's not that there's a transparency issue or anything like that. I think it's typically staff talks about detailed staff stuff. I understand how that would be informational for the public, but if we also in turn think that that could potentially drive more traffic to these meetings, i.e. more of the 10 show up, and maybe that's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, that was why I'd proposed kind of the quarterly, right, type deal. If the, if the point is kind of knowledge, right? I think that knowledge can be offered a few times a year. I think one of the risks that we run into is when there's disagreement between the staff advisory board and land bank advisory board. I mean, are we now having another public meeting now that we as commissioners have to come in and decipher? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Well, I think there are going to be times when advisory board and staff advisory team don't agree. And ultimately, we sit as the land bank board of trustees. And so at that point, it's our responsibility to make the decision, which we do on a regular basis. Chair Davis, I had a couple of comments on some of the comments we had received via email, and they pertain to the advisory board. If now is a good time to touch on those quickly?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
so a couple of things, we had received some comments by email about questions, comments, if you will. One of which was a question, I think. It said, we are not clear who the task force is for livable neighborhoods. Just for clarity, Livable Neighborhoods Task Force predates Livable Neighborhoods as a unified government department. Livable Neighborhoods Task Force is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and it was originally created prior to even unification of the government. And it was made up of neighborhood and government leadership at the table to problem solve together. The task force has named members. These are members of the Livable Neighborhoods Task Force that make recommendations. In this case, on the slide, you see that in addition to the 8 NBR representatives, the 2 Livable Neighborhoods Task Force members include Carol Newton with Strugglers Hill Neighborhood and Donnie Thomas with Kensington Neighborhood Watch. The concern was that there are people on the task force who don't know what's going on, but I would say these 2 task force members most certainly do know what's going on. So I just wanted to address that question that came to us in writing. And then there was a question in writing to us that section 2.4 of the governing authority, which basically, Ms. Green, I think reiterates what you said, that the land bank governance of the land bank is basically laid out in state statute and then ordinance. The concern in the written note to us was that the ultimately the Board of Trustees reserves the discretion to deviate when we deem appropriate. They're concerned about that basically being a loophole. But my response to that is it is laid out in state statute and ordinance that ultimately the commissioners are the Board of Trustees, period. So it's not a loophole, it's just the law. So I did want to respond to those two portions of what we had received in writing. Thank you.
Awesome. To wrap up the Land Bank Advisory Board comments, I'm gathering in committee, tell me if this is off. Everything that we have right now, the additional member for whoever, whatever area has the largest amount of land bank parcels. We're good with that. What I'm also gathering is let's just go ahead and have staff and the advisory board meet together. Is that, yes?
This is Wendy Green with the legal department. I would make a suggestion on that, or I would have a concern with that, and that is, what are the rules of procedure? It's not an open meeting as far as this is an open meeting that is governed by our own commission rules of procedure, which governs decorum, which governs how we treat one another. It's not the same type of a meeting as a commission meeting, which has rules of procedure, or some of our task forces, or meetings that are governed by our or boards that are governed by our ordinances, which we state out in our ordinances what rules of procedure they follow. It's just going to be a meeting of staff members and the public. So it would not have any type of rules of procedure, and that concerns me.
For sure, for sure. Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Mr. Hans mentioned, it's possible that there could be a chilling effect. I see it's very helpful when I know that the staff comments are coming from, at least I see it this way, are coming from a position of expertise that we are not expecting necessarily from our other task force members and advisory board personnel, and they too serve a very important function. They're looking at the neighborhood level as to what's being proposed. So both of these serve very important but somewhat distinct policies and input, somewhat distinct purposes. All to be sorted out, as Commissioner Bynum has said, under opportunity for public comment here and ultimately this board. So I would not want to see, aside from it, or in addition to what Councilor Green has mentioned, either of these units impeded just by trying to come together. What each does is important in a separate and distinct way, and eventually will be settled out here. Quite frankly, I haven't seen a lot of circumstances where they're at odds. So I think sometimes we overcompensate or want to overcompensate by bringing everybody together at the same time. Let each of those groups do their thing, so to speak. They each play important but somewhat distinct, as I see it, purposes. So I would not necessarily want to see one dragged down by the other for meeting dates and compatibility, who's coming, who's not, and let each bring their recommendations, which we all ultimately hear. Thank you.
I hear you. Committee, any other, Commissioner Hill, do you have any thoughts you wanted to add about the Land Bank Advisory Board?
No, not at this time.
So this is Commissioner Davis. I originally proposed quarterly just for the sake of not having one tell the other do their job. I feel like having monthly would be quite a bit, but for there to be some sort of, hey, these are the trends that we are seeing, or if there are questions and we do see there being the advisory board being at odds and the staff a board being at odds, there just being some further conversation. However, I do hear legal's concern around who's going to govern that process. And what's to say that there are some issues or things that are said or done during those meetings that we've not seen or heard of or what have you. That does give me quite a bit of pause in what type of risk we are putting out there. That's not to say any member of the public could not meet with members of the staff advisory board. That could happen. But there is a question of, should those members of the public be at a staff designated meeting, right? So that is what gives me pause. So that we can find some consensus. Commissioner Bynum, how does this, because I was back and forth and then now I'm really with Commissioner Townsend on this one. Well, how does that land with you? And just kind of, if any member of the public wanted to meet with members of the staff advisory board, they could, but to keep those two meetings separate.
I can understand that, and I especially appreciate Ms. Green's concern. I guess the only thing I would say is, yes, Chair Davis, to what you are saying, with the potential that down the road, we might have the opportunity to have some sort of official name, like the mayor's task forces that are all advertised, noticed, and open to the public. In which case we would have a structure available for decorum and protocol and things like that. I mean, to me, that could be something on the table for later, maybe not adopted into policy right this minute, but certainly worthy of looking into a little bit deeper. I do appreciate Commissioner Townsend's comments as well as yours. I just think maybe that's a parking lot item that could be developed. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, I will take that comment as we will move forward with what the subcommittee has recommended. And some of those other later conversations we can have. Okay, yard extensions, bear with me, y'all. Yard extensions. So, Mr. Knapp, if you could pull up the slide one more time. The recommendation that was given by the subcommittee for yard extensions was that they would be allowed. And they would be allowed regardless of whether or not that parcel is quote unquote developable or buildable or not. I know there are various opinions and ideas regarding this, and so I wanted to open up the floor for conversation regarding this. And keep in mind, you would have to live next to that lot. And we have not been as successful and have not seen the results that we would like when it comes to getting developers to build single-family homes. While all that is taking place and while we are hoping, we are dealing with a lack of resources to adequately take care of some of these lots. If you all recall, in our last meeting, we actually had a community member that came forward and was very, very earnest in wanting to acquire these lots because she'd been taking care of them and knows others that have been taking care of lots that are owned by the unified government that are in the land bank. And so I'm saying all that to set up this conversation so that we understand what the pros and cons are with a restrictive or a less restrictive policy. The last thing I'll say is code enforcement is code enforcement. We can try codifying it as much as we want, but that is a separate conversation for how much staff we have and what their capacity is, as opposed to what individual issues are brought to our attention. With that, are there comments, ideas regarding this particular proposal for yard extensions? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Just point of clarity, if you can go back to that slide. Yeah, okay, so it says current policy. Is this what is being proposed as well, or was there some change?
The changes with the unbuildable lot.
It's with what?
Is we are removing the unbuildable lot and these requirements. If you live next to the lot, you are eligible for a yard extension.
Whether it's buildable or not.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, since I'm on the mic, I'll just say whatever. Land is a finite asset. We've all heard how important it is for this community to build, to improve our tax base and hopefully take down the amount of taxes that we're paying. These are all intertwined concerns. I think we have been on the right track saying that if a lot is buildable, that is not eligible for a yard extension. And I still hold to that. And I know what the downside is. The other side is that means it's still in the land bank. That means that the unified government is still responsible for its upkeep. And I know I'll get calls if something is missed about it. However, I still think it's very valuable that if the lot is buildable, that should not be basically given away as an asset for something that may not require the building of a house. It is so important. We've heard this time and time again at open meeting about taxes. And the answer is that we need more homes built, just as we've heard earlier tonight in these land bank option applications. So those are my comments on it. If it's unbuildable, that's another thing. But if it's buildable, that's what it should be reserved for, in my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Biden.
I do appreciate that sentiment. But my thought is it's already going to be adjacent to the house where you live. And it might be a buildable lot. And to me, that's an opportunity for that homeowner, assuming that someday down the road, someone comes along that wants that for some buildable reason. That is an opportunity for that homeowner to acquire perhaps even a small amount of profit. And I think that should also be a part of the philosophy, if you will, of this land bank. So I'll just leave it there. I think it should be an opportunity for a homeowner to also enjoy a profit from owning land.
Other questions? Commissioner Hill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not real sure how to navigate my comment, but in those cases where there is a lot that is a part of the land bank that still has a dilapidated building on it, and there's no one repairing it. Matter of fact, if that particular dilapidated building is in court, or the owner is deceased, and the family members don't have the wherewithal to purchase the building, and it continues to decay, and it continues to bring about such disarray in the neighborhood. What are our options if nothing is being done and the building continues to deteriorate? At some point, the homeless are being there. So I'm just if you
Yeah.
just help me, I'm still pretty new, so.
Yes,
I'm-
no,
I'm-
no, no, you're fine. You're fine. So I do want to provide some clarity, and I think legal is ready to answer this question. But the conversation that we're having about yard extension is a land bank parcel that is next to a primary residence or a commercial commercial building that is, you know, owned. And so in your situation, what you are referencing is different. We're not necessarily talking about a land bank. You're talking about something that's privately owned that has fallen into disrepair. And that would be a question of code enforcement and are you up to date on your property taxes? But legal, if you want to provide any other clarity regarding that question, please do.
Yes, definitely. So as far as the yard extension would be concerned, it would be a land bank property that had absolutely no structure on it whatsoever that would be available to the owner of the adjacent property that did have a structure on it. So it would be the primary residence of the owner of the adjacent lot, or it would be the owner of the commercial lot next to this vacant land bank lot. What you're describing, what we would look at would be if the family could not take care of the property, it was the deceased owner. We would look at one, are there taxes due? Is it tax sale eligible? If that would be the case, we could put it through a tax sale and possibly a third party could buy it and rehab the property. If not, then the unified government would take it in the tax sale and then we would give it to the land bank and put it through the land bank rehab property. If it was not able to be rehabbed and it did come to the unified government through the tax sale process, then at that point we would demolish it and get it, then it would become a vacant lot and we would put it through the land bank through whatever vacant lot process we had, whether somebody acquired it through the option agreement process or if they acquired it as a vacant lot because it was a yard extension. Hopefully that answers your question, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you so much for that explanation. So I do understand we do have one neighbor who did purchase property next to their, when I say property, the yard extension where there was no building and he was able to get that yard extension. So your explanation was very good. Thank you. I understand better.
Awesome, awesome. Are there other thoughts, other comments?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. I think the intent with staff's recommendation is a couple points. You saw at the beginning of the presentation, we have what, 4,600-ish, over 4,000 land bank parcels, 4,600. That's more than we had last year. We are taking in more land bank than we are putting out. We are not moving the needle. And that the intent of allowing side yard setbacks is to not prevent future development. Those parcels aren't going anywhere. That lot is still there. It's still vacant. It could be developed in the future. But as of right now, it costs the UG money we don't have from maintenance, from not collecting taxes, although it would be very small amount of taxes collected. That's still a net positive versus a net negative, as well as all the enforcement issues that these all bring to us. So we have community members who are actively maintaining these properties for us. They should be rewarded for that. And that by transferring that property back to private hands, back to our community members, people who own land in the UG, we are effectively wealth generating for next generations. And one day, when that lot next to your house is filled with buildings down your street, you then have something very valuable that could be transferred to your kin generations to come. And it's a wealth generation building tool, in our opinion. I think the other kind of small point that I would put on it is the way the policy works now, regardless of how this conversation goes, needs to be corrected in one way, shape, or form, because the policy requires you to build something when you get on that. So we have very often someone who wants a lot next to them they are required to build, let's say, a garage on that lot because we have to build something on that parcel we give them, well, then they just put themselves in a zoning infraction because they already have a garage, a detached garage in their house, and you can't have two accessory structures. So we are basically making them to acquire the land that they quite frankly are already maintaining. Not only do they have to build a garage to replace the garage they already have, they have to then tear down that other garage, which is probably fine and good. And we're causing a cost that is quite frankly unnecessary. So if we go one direction or not, we have to at least fix that.
And I'll also add, there is a desire within our community to own these lots, and it's 4,600 parcels. I think, Mr. Knapp, tell me if this is incorrect, but there was a number during our time in the subcommittee where I think there was like maybe a few hundred applications for a yard extension. I remember seeing like 700 applications or something like that. Do you have an idea of just how many people have inquired about just wanting to own the land next to them because the UG is not able to take care of it?
It's the majority of the calls we receive is wanting that lot next to them.
So I understand the desire for development and I get it, but with 4,600, it becomes very, very hard to deny a community that access. Are there, yes, ACA Cobbins.
Good evening, Bridget Cobbins, Assistant County Administrator. Just to give some historical context, at one time I was the land bank manager back around 2002. And I think that over the years, it's been ebbs and flows as to what the goal of the land bank is. We've had several mayors and administrators and commissioners that had different desires as to how they wanted the land bank to look. Back in 2000, the drive was, we just wanted to get back on the tax roll. So that body in the mayor at that time didn't care about it possibly being built upon. It was just, we needed to get it back into the hands of the citizens that live adjacent to those properties. 4 years later, another mayor came in, different concept and a different strategy. We need to focus on building. Then 4 years later, another body come in with a different context and a different vision for how they want the land bank to lay out. So I think that over the years, there's just been a lot of different perspectives as to what should the land bank be used for. But there are many conversations in which there are citizens that are maintaining properties that are adjacent to them that the UG never has to maintain. So does that mean that that individual should be required to build if they just wanted to have it without snakes or rodents or a dumping ground in their neighborhoods? So I think the bigger question is, what goal do we want the land bank to play in our community or in our county? And so, like I said, it's been changing over the years because you have different butts and seats and different perspectives. So you can have an argument for both sides. You can say we need to focus exclusively on development. You can say we can work exclusively on yard expansion or for gardens or for whatever the case may be. But ultimately, if we want these to get back on the tax roll, as a body, I think we should really be more considerate of what will be the purpose and the intent of the property once we get it out of the land bank. Because as Gunnar alluded to, we're going to continue to get properties in the land bank. That's not going to change. And at the trajectory that we're going now, we're not seeing that many moving out of the land bank. And so every month when you hold a property or an application to advance, that's another month of someone living next beside this property that's not being maintained, and another opportunity where someone will say, well, I just give up. I don't even want to deal with the government because they're making it too restrictive for me to own a piece of property and to create generational wealth for my family. So I think that those are some of the things that we may need to consider going forward, that it may not just be a cookie cutter program for all, but we do need to have some flexibility and give the discretion to the land bank manager to make those calls if something should become before the body for consideration for yard expansion, for development, for a garden, for a community project, for a nonprofit, whatever the case may be. But I think the land bank manager really has to have that autonomy to know that there are some situations that it's not going to be just a straight yard expansion or a straight developable lot.
Thank you for that wisdom, ACA Cobbins. Other thoughts, committee? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Just to be clear, because we bandied about this number of what was that, 4,675, those are not all unbuildable lots. I mean, it's a variety of things. So I don't want anyone who's listening in to think we've got 4,675 lots that are unbuildable. And I think with regard to the task that we give our land bank manager, the Land Bank Board of Trustees and the committee need to give him clear direction, whatever that is, that can be applied uniformly in all like situations. So there may be discretion in some cases, but like this should be something that is clearly given to the land bank manager, yes or no, or whatever it's going to be. But that should not be a burden that whoever the land bank manager should have to carry. And then be forced to explain why was this done or granted in situation A and not in B and not in C. So I think one of the things that is hurtful is we still don't have a full economic development plan. And maybe I would feel differently about it, because once you deed this land away, you can't get it back. And land is finite. We've only got so much of it. So again, I don't have any problem with unbuildable lots as we're currently doing. I don't even know what percentage of that number it is, but if we could see a longer term development plan, I think that would, for me, I would be more amenable, to the yard extension if you had a buildable lot. So, thank you.
Just a quick point of clarification, about 600 of those are unbuildable of the
Okay.
4,600. So just to answer that question quickly. And then just as a reminder, you all did adopt a economic development strategy last November. So it did include direction on a land bank strategy.
Mhm.
We're waiting to go all in on that until this land bank policy was settled. But our current thinking is to batch similar to, or using what we've learned from the RFQ, RFP process for UG-owned land, develop an RFP that batches a lot of land bank properties together and seek a bigger swing at more development as opposed to the piecemeal shotgun approach that we currently have. So that is our current strategy. Our pilot project for that is to specifically target the Douglas Sumner neighborhood for a whole host of reasons, which we elaborated on when we were updating Plan KCK.
And so to kind of land here, because we still have two other items that hopefully will not take as long for us to discuss. We can, what am I trying to say here? Even if we were to just go after what is unbuildable, we're still talking about 4,000, right? And I want to for the community, for everybody to hear this, this does not mean, the conversation about gardens doesn't mean we're going to have 3 million gardens all over Wyandotte County. Every application still has to come through this committee. So if somebody were to come in and say, I want a yard extension, and we're like, hold on, we know this other development that's coming. We have every right to deny. We have every right to hold. We have every right to be strategic. The issue is that that's just not the case most of the time. Most of the time, there is no, there's no economic or prior economic development interest. The other thing is, from the resident perspective, I mean, if you're not going to get economic development in my neighborhood and you're going to deny me, right, access to own, and you can't take care of the land, I mean, what are we? We're not necessarily helping ourselves in that case. So with that, I think we have enough consensus to keep this as is. I will make note for us to follow up because I know Commissioner Ramirez is not here so that we can continue to have that conversation. But let's go ahead and keep this policy as is. I mean, what has been recommended by the subcommittee and by staff, which is that abutting homeowners and commercial property owners will have access and will be able to apply for a yard extension. And I want to make it very clear because I'm reading the policy right now. You still have to be current on all your property taxes. You still have to, you cannot have any code violations. You have to be, if it's a homeowner, there's no Airbnbs doing this. You have to be the primary residential homeowner in order to apply for this. Or if you're commercial, you have to own that commercial building. You can't even be a business and do this. You have to own the property. And so there are some guardrails regarding that. Okay. We are headed to the last two, which is options and holds. And these two are very, they kind of work one for the other, but let's do options first. Mr. Knapp, can you just give a very, very brief synopsis? Because I know we've kind of had a lot of other conversations of just what the current policy is and then proposed policy, and then we'll open this up for discussion.
The current policy is that the option program is to give builders an opportunity to build on land bank lots without actually owning it. And we as a city can retain ownership until the last possible second after they receive financing and their building permit. And then we transfer the property. We do the best we can to ensure that the build will happen. So the option changes that we have is the start date starts at the full commission vote date. They have 45 days to sign it or I'll cancel them. And then the extension is the land bank manager can extend one time for a total of 2 years, and the third year would require to come back in front of the Board of Trustees to approve that extension.
Yes, Commissioner Townsend?
Are you ready for?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, okay. As proposed, I agree with the proposed as shown. I can recollect some very specific situations where options have been granted, more the commercial nature. And the agreement wasn't signed for a year and a half or something. So I agree with these. The only question I had about the language that's up there is in extension 8.1C, that first bullet point, the land bank manager can extend agreement once if progress is made. Give me an idea what you mean by progress is being made.
They have a surveyor, they've hired an architect, they are still wanting to build on that lot. They are basically spending money on the project. That's
okay, easily definable criteria. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bynum?
Just a technical issue from the written comments that we received by email. Section 8, option agreements, 8.1A says applicant must be a qualified applicant, which has the same requirements as in section 8.3. But 8.3 is missing. There is no 8.3. And it might just be something that inadvertently got dropped. So I'm just noting it as a technical issue.
Yeah, the community is on it, y'all. So they.
I'm just telling you what they found, but
Yes.
there's no section 8.3. So we're going to want to find that.
It should be 7.3.
But we're in section 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a typo.
Well, if you look at the copy that was given to you all last month, 8.1A, the applicant must be a qualified applicant, which has the same requirements as in section 7.3.
So this is a typo. It should say 8.1A should read, the applicant must be a qualified applicant, which has the same requirements as in section 7.3. correct?
Correct.
Okay, easy enough. Thank you.
But 7.3 is a qualified rehabber, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Right. Yep. The
Yeah,
qualified applicant has the same requirements as the qualified rehab.
that's
Thank
qualified.
you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, I was
Perfect.
just about to bring that up. Okay, awesome. Any other questions? Commissioner Hill, you have any questions regarding options?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so we will go ahead and keep the options, which is great. Mr. Knapp, for the holds, take us home.
The holds, the staff's recommendation was holding a property for a third party is prohibited. We have the view that they could just do an option agreement to hold that for a year, and with the mayor's office, that holds are allowed for developments.
Awesome. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Han.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. I think the intent for staff on this one was if you want to quote unquote hold land bank property for development, then go through the process and get it.
And just so you all are aware, this is Commissioner Davis. The reason why this is being recommended as opposed to our current policy is there has to be some sort of, we need some sort of mandated either reporting or mandated accountability process in which someone is saying, hey, yes, I was awarded a land bank parcel or 5 land bank parcels a year and a half ago. Here's what I have done since you've given me those parcels, right? Whereas the current policy is it's a hold, and we may or may not hear from some of those folks, or at the very least, we've not codified in our policy that they come back or that they're accountable to the manager and say, here's what I have done. And so if you shouldn't have anything to hide. If we gave you a land bank parcel last year, you should be able to tell us what you have done or what's going on with that project. Or if you're having issues with your finance and your capital, you should tell us that, right? What should not happen is, and this is just Commissioner Davis speaking, we give you the land bank application, we award it, and we don't hear from you for two and a half years. That is what the spirit in which we are trying to do this. And I know for larger developments, there would be that question of what does that mean as we put out RFPs? Same deal for ED&F. If you need more time, if you have a development agreement, you need more time, we'll give you more time, but show us that there's been progress on the application. That's the spirit of this. So with that, committee, any questions regarding just hold, no hold, what that means and all that stuff? And again, granted, the option would be maximum for 3 years before we would even hear from you. Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Just more understanding about what this means. Holding property for a third party is prohibited. So you have a developer who comes and says, I have a plan for this area. Are we saying with this proposed change that we would send them the option agreement route? What are we really saying here? I'm not clear.
Yeah.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. That is correct. Staff's recommendation is the most recent example would be the Mount Carmel development. So Land Bank Board of Trustees gave them a blanket hold, no requirements. We would say that if Mount Carmel had come to us and this policy was updated to say what it is proposed, that they would have gone to the land bank, gotten options on all the properties they wanted, and then gone through the process. And if all the other recommendations that were just discussed in terms of options were approved, they could have had a 1-year option extended by the land bank manager. And then if that development continued into 3 years and hadn't made any progress, then it would come back to the land bank board of trustees, at which point you would have accountability to what progress was made, and quite frankly, could make any decision about how you wanted to give them more time or not, or ask for something else, or get some sort of report back as such. But a blanket hold would not be staff's recommendation.
And just to add on to that, We are not saying that there's any issues with Mount Carmel at all. That was just used as an example. I just wanted to, but yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Okay, and with respect to that particular property, in consideration of some of the issues that you just raised, I know in that situation, this body and the developer did agree specifically to come back within X period of time to find out. I guess I have so I need to talk to a couple of more developers to see if in a large commercial environment, is their situation different than someone that just wanted to come, as we've seen tonight, and build a home, and an option agreement would be better. So I'd still have to do some more talking to people at a higher level of development than just and thank God for them, our neighbors who were coming, I'm going to build one home, I'm going to build two homes. So
Yeah.
I just have to do some more work on that.
Yeah, and we can certainly bring this back, because again, I know Commissioner Ramirez isn't here. And so my thinking is the things that we're not unanimous on, we leave for our fellow commissioner to go ahead and make that deciding vote and make that deciding recommendation. So yeah, other questions? Commissioner Hill, any questions or anything regarding that?
No, I really appreciated Commissioner Townsend question just to get clarity. So that helped me a lot. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, we are wrapping up. I appreciate everyone and their patience. Just want to give you kind of an idea of what's coming next. So we have our next meeting Monday, April 29th. Okay, great. April 29th in this building at whatever time ED&F ends. It is during that time that we will discuss gardens and/or urban farms, and then we will also discuss the issues that we didn't really land on, particularly yard extensions and holds. And so those would be kind of that's the direction that we are headed. If you all as committee members have ideas, or even for the community, on things that we need to look at, whether it's from an ordinance or resolution perspective, whatever, anything that's pertinent to this committee, I have an open door policy. I have a good relationship with all of you. So please do not hesitate to let me know. The last thing I'll say, we do not have a meeting in the month of May. It is my goal to get us one meeting in the month of May if we can. I know some commissioners say no. It is my goal if we can get a meeting in the month of May. If not, we'll wait until June. But I do want to put this to rest because we have some other things that we would need to consider. And so you will get an email about your availability. Your availability should already be made available with our staff and all that stuff. But I just wanted to let folks know this will come to an end. We will send this to our colleagues for the full commission. With that, clerk, can we get a roll? Well, actually, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'm so moved.
David, second. Awesome. Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. Thank you all so much. Get home safe.
You too.